live from the TheatreMaker.ie studio at Axis Ballymun. On tonight's episode of Stage Door Live, we'll be hitting the hot topics with Sadhbh Barrett Coakley and Sinéad Cormack. I will be joined in studio by Julia Appleby to chat about her curatorial experience on the Lasta Festival 2021. And finally, our panel will be completed by Angus, Ogue, McNally for the big debate on reassessing pace and reframing our words and work. This is Stage Door Live for the 16th of June 2021. On tonight's episode of Stage Door Live,
so it's a mixture thing. So what we're
possible for a union.
Gave me a bit of time, gave me a bit of space, I think.
Which is crucial to our identity.
Welcome to Stage Door Live. I'm Janice de Bruyne. Thanks to the support of Axis Ballymun and Dublin City Council, we're broadcasting from the TheatreMaker.ie studio at Axis Ballymun, part of the Axis Media Hub. We've got a great show for you tonight, but before all that, let's take a look at the top news stories from our news producer, Blue Hanley from Irish Theatre This Week. Take it away, Blue.
Thank you, Janice. There's plenty of news for this busy week, so let's jump right in with the breaking stories. The Electric Picnic Music and Arts Festival has announced earlier today that the festival plans to move forward this year. Organisers are confident that the festival stands a better chance to take place this year if dates are moved back a few weeks. The current dates planned for the festival are the 26th to the 24th to the 26th of September in Stradbally, County Laois. Those who are not able to attend are entitled for a full refund. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar recently updated employers on the reopening and changes to financial supports. The Employment Wage Subsidy Scheme is extended until the end of 2021. The pandemic unemployment payment will be closed for new entrants from the 1st of July. The PUP will be gradually phased out from the 7th of September. By early next year, it will be in line with the Job Seekers Allowance. Exciting times. Since the easing of lockdown last Monday, theatres and cinemas are excited to announce show times for the public to enjoy. However, there's a limited capacity for each cinema, so book your tickets online soon to have a seat reserved. Restaurants and pubs are also allowed to reopen outdoor areas for their customers to dine in. Customer groups of up to 6 people over the age of 13 are allowed per table. Should customer groups include children, a total of 15 people per table is allowed. Indoor dining will be allowed from the 5th of July, and further increases in capacity for indoor and outdoor events are expected from the 5th of August. Later in the show, Janice will be talking about the first of the series of pilot events that was hosted last Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Last week, the HSE stated vaccine registration would open this week for ages 30 to 39. Today, online registration remains open only for people aged 40 and up. It is still expected that it will open this week. Yesterday, Minister Martin announced 237 recipients of the €25 million live performance support scheme fund, who will stage a variety of concerts, festivals and live events. This scheme is part of a €50 million suite of measures to support the live entertainment sector and follows the demand and successful outcomes of the €5 million pilot live performance support scheme. The aim of this scheme is to provide employment across the live entertainment sector. The scheme aims to support live performances, particularly where capacity for live attendance is restricted due to COVID-19, and where funding will make live performances viable or alternatively make them available online if audiences cannot attend due to restrictions. Earlier this month, Theatre Forum and the Association of Irish Stage Technicians held a reopening forum and will be holding a second on Wednesday the 23rd. The forum covered government reopening phases, socially distanced seating and circulation guidance, programme and art form considerations, ticketing, as well as collection of audience information in line with the department's pilot events. The second reopening forum on Wednesday 23rd of June will focus on production and programming. Registration will be open soon. More information on this from Janice later. The Isaacs Network and Dance Ireland present Where Dance Meets Street, a cross-sector gathering taking place tomorrow in association with the Spring Moves Dance Festival, supported by Wexford County Council. The event is taking place online and is free to attend. Events include a dramaturgy workshop and 2-hour masterclass in all things street arts creation. For more information and to register, visit isaacs.ie. Praxis, the Artists' Union of Ireland, has a meeting Saturday. This meeting is the first review meeting of the organisation. Every 3 months, review meetings will take place for the Council to provide members with union updates and answer questions. Details will have been emailed to members who are encouraged to attend. If you'd like more information on Praxis, including joining, please visit praxisunion.ie. The Irish Film and Television Academy Award nominations were announced yesterday. The nominees include Paul Mescal from Normal People for Best Actor in a Lead Role in Drama, Nicola Coughlin from Bridgerton for Best Actress in a Supporting Role in Drama, Will Collins from Wolfwalkers for Script Film category, and Brendan Gleeson from The Comey Rule for Best Actor in a Lead Role in Drama. For more information on the list of nominees, visit the website below. Today marks Bloomsday. Bloomsday celebrates the life of Irish writer James Joyce. The 16th of June is the day Joyce's 1922 novel Ulysses takes place in 1904. The date of his first outing with his wife-to-be, Nora Barnacle, and named after its protagonist, Leopold Bloom. Although events and activities were seen to be primarily online, organisers had a few elements live to the public in Dublin. As part of the Performing Joyce series, actor Ivana Lynch performed as Lucia Joyce in the Irish premiere of Calico by Michael Hastings. Also, the award-winning Eilish Ní Ghimhne was this year's Bloomsday poet. This summer, Dún Laoghaire streets and laneways will be brightened by a host of artworks which will be presented as part of the Dún Laoghaire Anseo street art project. Dún Laoghaire Anseo will be taking place Tuesday 22nd of June until Monday 28th of June. On a sad note, 2 great actors passed this week. Yesterday, Gone Girl star Lisa Baines, 65 years old, was reported to have died 10 days after a hit-and-run accident in New York City on the 4th of June. Baines was struck by a person on a 2-wheel vehicle while on her way to visit the Juilliard School. Ned Beatty, best known for his role in the movie Deliverance, also died earlier this week of natural causes. He was 83 years of age and passed at his home in Los Angeles, surrounded by friends and loved ones. The deadline for Arts Council's Circus Bursary Award is Thursday the 24th at 5:30 p.m. The purpose of the award is to support professional artists at any stage of their career to develop their art practice. It provides artists with the time and resources to think, research, reflect, and critically engage with their art. The maximum amount that may be awarded to each successful applicant is €20,000. The Agility Award is still open and closing on the 8th of July. It is open to individual, professional, freelance artists and arts workers at any stage in their career in any field. The Young Ensemble scheme is also currently open without a deadline. The Young Ensemble scheme supports groups of 3 or more young people between the ages of 10 and 24 to create or critically engage with ambitious and original work together in any art form or combination of art forms. There are 2 strands. The maximum award under strand 1 is €10,000 and the maximum under strand 2 is from €10,000 to no more than €25,000. You may only apply to one strand and you should choose the strand that is most suitable for your ensemble and for your proposal. More information on these and others is available on artscouncil.ie. There is currently a plethora of jobs advertised on the Abbey's website. The Abbey Theatre is currently looking for a company stage manager, deputy stage manager, assistant stage manager, costume hire assistant, costume assistant dresser, prop department assistant, communications officer, and a marketing and communications assistant. The deadline for all of these is Friday coming at 5 p.m, with the exception of communications officer, marketing, and communications assistant. The deadline for these 2 is Thursday the 24th of June at 5 p.m. Dublin Theatre Festival is currently seeking a box office assistant manager. This is a seasonal position. The closing date for applications is 5 p.m. on Wednesday the 23rd of June. Applications will be accepted by email and should be submitted to recruitment@dublintheatrefestival.ie. If you have an arts event which you think might benefit from support from RTE, you can apply to RTE Supporting the Arts. Each year, RTE supports local and national arts events throughout Ireland through media partnerships and widespread cultural content across their platforms, including Radio 1, Lyric FM, Radio na Gaeltachta, RTE 1 and 2, and via RTE orchestras. In addition, RTE supports events by offering promotional airtime on RTE radio and television. For more information, check out Supporting the Arts on about.rte.ie or email sthearts@rte.ie. Phoebe Show currently has a residency opportunity open for applications. Cuirtar fáilte ribh alíontóirí garmúla gníomhacha gur simló iartas a chur isteach yeis chonaitheachta le Phoebe Show lúnasa 2021 go 2022. Applications are welcome from professional theatre set designers who work in an interdisciplinary form or from an ensemble of artists. Deadline for applications, welcome Oscailga or in English, is Friday week at 5 p.m. Information available on feebeen.ie. Galway Dance Project has a pilot residency scheme for dance artists. The residency will take place in Galway Dance Project's newly acquired studio space in Terryland House, a self-contained 1,000 square foot dance studio. There is currently no deadline to apply. There are currently 6 1- or 2-week residencies available. 3 of these residencies will be supported by a stipend of €500. More information available on galwaydanceproject.com. The deadline for Galway Theatre Festival General Manager is creeping up. Applications close Friday week, the 25th of June. Information is on the Galway Theatre Festival website. We also have another Galway job posting. Galway Arts Centre is seeking to appoint a head of visual art and curator who will play a key role as part of a small team at Galway Arts Centre. Application deadline is 5 p.m, Wednesday the 30th of June 2021. For more information or to submit a CV and cover letter, email Tara O'Connor, the General Manager, tara@galwayartscentre.ie. The Lear has a number of short courses coming up over the summer. There are 2-day courses including Technology and the Stage and week-long courses including Introduction to Stage Management and Technical Theatre and Introduction to Costume Design. More information is available on thelear.ie. The Playhouse Derry is seeking applications for the position of Head of Engagement and Head of Development. Deadline for both is Monday, the 21st of June at 5 p.m. Full recruitment packs with the full job descriptions are available on their website, derryplayhouse.co.uk. The new International Performing Arts Institute offers a number of courses including diplomas in theatre directing, movement directing and arts management. Their next upcoming programmes start this month and August of this year. More information available on their website, nipai.org. That's it for the news this week. Thank you for joining us. TheatreMaker is here to support you and your projects. Don't forget to send in your press releases and show announcements to news@TheatreMaker.ie for consideration to be published on our website and on our online programming.
If you find value in Stage Door Live, please help us grow by letting your friends and followers know. If you're watching on Facebook, hit that follow button and give us a like. Take a moment to share this live feed with your friends and followers right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel and click that bell to keep updated on our new and exclusive YouTube content. Your support helps us continue these important conversations about Irish theatre, now and into the future.
A big thank you to everyone who has supported us from the very beginning and each step along the way. If you like what we're doing and would like to show us some love, there's plenty of ways to do so. Become a patron of TheatreMaker on Patreon or check out our store filled with loads of Oscailga products. All proceeds from these sales go directly to support the work we're doing, so please do consider becoming a patron. We're posting a link in chat now and it will also be in the description after the show. Time for us to delve into this week's hot topics. Every week we invite 2 guests to join me in picking through the latest breaking news topics, the good, the bad and the downright grisly. Don't forget, as we throw through the headlines, we want to hear from you watching at home, so please be sure to pop your thoughts in the comments below. Before we get to those headlines, allow me to introduce our first two guests, Sinéad, Cormack and Sadhbh Barrett Coakley. Sinéad is a theatre maker and performer, currently working on developing a new show using sensory theatre techniques for an intimate audience. Sadhbh is a stage manager and co-artistic director of ALSA Productions. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
Hi, Janice.
How are things down in Carlow, Sinéad?
Oh, it's cloudy, but it's grand.
And
we're
what
all recovering from the Arts Festival.
Well, sure, this is it. And how about Cork, Sadhbh? How are things down there?
Good, yeah, we're gearing up for the Midsummer Festival. Well, we're actually in the middle of it, so it's all go.
This is true. We've just had Sinéad who's been working on the Carlow Arts Festival. Now you're handing the baton over to Sadhbh who's working with the Cork Midsummer. I love it. This is fantastic. So let's get on to the news topics, shall we? So on Monday, we reported that a recording of the first reopening forum, hosted by the AIST and Theatre Forum on June 9th, is now available on TheatreMaker.ie, where they're also providing the guidance documents shared by the panel of experts. A second reopening forum will take place on the 23rd of June with a focus on programming and planning, and registration for that is to open soon. Certainly, events like this are quite helpful. What do you think, Sadhbh?
Yeah, I mean, Theatre Forum have just done a really brilliant job of providing information to the sector, because there's been so much uncertainty, and I think it's really reassuring, especially for freelancers maybe who aren't attached to a venue like myself, to have a kind of centralized source that you can go to for information, because things are changing so quickly. So I think forums and events like this are really, really helpful, and it would definitely kind of help to sort of maybe ease a little bit of the kind of uncertainty and anxiety, as well as, you know, the excitement that we're all feeling about getting back to work again.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking through kind of what was talked about and discussed at that forum, a lot of the stuff seemed to be around, organising seating and thinking about what your capacity for audiences and exits and all those kind of things. So it seemed to be quite geared towards like venues and buildings. Sinéad, do you think it was helpful for you, like Sadhbh, you were unconnected to a building as such, but so as a freelancer, was it still very, very useful for you?
Yeah, I found it helpful because there's certain things that you should probably just know as an artist, or at least have an idea of going in. Like just knowing that the capacity is not going to change for a long time. The social distancing is not going to change for a long time. So having an idea of, if it wasn't financially feasible for you to do it last month, it still isn't. And having an idea of like when that might be and when it's going to change. And like Sadhbh said, just knowing that there are people like Theatre Forum available, like they're great. If you email them, they'll get back to you, or they'll try to put you in touch with somebody who can help you. There's lots of information available on their website. The AIST are great as well. If you've got like a random specific question, they're quite helpful. So I think as long as we all continue in the industry to talk to each other, we can kind of get through it together. So more of these things, the better.
Absolutely. You've touched on something there, both of you actually, about things are changing so fast at the minute, and I know with regards to the Carlow Arts Festival, that had major ramifications where suddenly we had slight increase of capacity for certain events and we were able to release more tickets and that kind of thing. Do you think we should be having, or should we have more of these events happening? Like, is it something that should be happening kind of every month, every few weeks? What do you think, Sadhbh?
Well, I mean, there's pros and cons, I suppose. There is a bit of a fine line between, people getting a little bit overwhelmed, I think, by too much information, especially because, for the most part, all these events are online and the Zoom fatigue is real. So I think having the information like readily accessible, and like Sinéad said, that communication goes two ways. So you can reach out to organizations like AIST and Theatre Forum if you have a specific question as well. And I think that's kind of equally as helpful as having more information sharing events, because things are changing so quickly. Sometimes it's week to week. You can kind of reach the point where you're maybe at a bit of an overload of information, I've found. So I think, having that information just in like a centralized location where you can go, you can get the answers you need when you need them, I think is a really good way to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And Sinead, I'm going to come to you on this next point. I know they've announced this next one that's going to be happening on the 23rd, and it has a slightly different perspective. It's going to be looking at things in terms of programming and stuff. What do you feel could be covered in that, or what do you think should be covered in these events that hasn't already been covered?
Oh God, they've covered so much. I'm not sure. From an independent artist perspective, and also somebody who works as a stage manager as well, it would be helpful to have maybe a department type chat about certain things, but that might be more of an AISC individual departments. So like, what is the role changes for stage managers, for production managers? Have they changed? Have they not changed? Have they changed and we don't want them to change because it's being forced on us, or not? Or, who's taking up the slack of things that is, because, there's a lot more work. I think from the programming, I think even as an independent artist, I won't be programming a venue, but it's helpful sometimes to sit in and listen so that you even know, are they thinking 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead, a year ahead, 2 years ahead, 5 years ahead. So you're not kind of rocking up being like, hey, I have a show. But they've already programmed, or they're not ready for you, or, so you can kind of just get a bit of an in on what's happening and what sort of atmosphere and thing you're going into when you're trying to get stuff done.
Fantastic. Yeah, great points, both of you, and always good to get the freelancers' point of view, because often it's quite tricky to get that point of view heard sometimes. So thank you both. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is the first pilot test event. So on Monday, we featured a report by Satisha Mohan on the first of a series of live test events at Ivy Gardens. The concert was attended by a live audience with strict COVID restrictions in place and seems to have been a success. Here's a short clip from Satisha's report. Let's have a look.
The first live test event since the pandemic was held at the Ivy Gardens, Dublin, last Thursday evening. National Concert Hall organised James Vincent McMorris' live standing-only concert as the first of the official pilot events supported by the government. TheatreMaker.ie spoke to some of the 500 lucky fans who successfully purchased the €25 tickets online before it was sold out in 30 minutes.
I was just really excited, I suppose. Like, it's been so long since we've been able to do anything like this, and it was a bit unexpected. I thought it'd be a long time still before Ireland was going back to kind of doing events and stuff like that. So yeah, I was really excited.
So we've been trying on the website, and the website kind of went down and came back up, and then when we realised we had the tickets, Steve was actually out at work, so I left him a voice note with me screaming down the mic at him. So yeah, we just can't believe after all this time we're finally getting to go to a live gig.
I checked Twitter and I thought, I saw the amount of people that didn't get it. I was like, there's no way. And then I saw that voice note and it was just screaming. I was like, she did not like it. She did.
Yeah, so we just can't wait to get in and finally see a concert,
What an amazing audience reaction there. People clearly so happy to be going to stuff. Long overdue, it feels like. Sinead, I'm going to come to you first on this one, because obviously you just stage manage a live event for Carlow Arts Festival, albeit in a field, and we were all sitting on hay bales. So what do you think about this live test event? Certainly slightly larger scale than what was going on in Carlow.
Yeah, we only had 15 people, so yeah, it's a bit bigger. Yeah, it's a bit interesting. We were chatting about it just before we came on air. Not sure, they haven't released the report yet of what the data they were collecting in terms of, like, was there any testing of participants or anything like that. But it'll be interesting to see what the results of those are and what the report says. I think it's good that they're doing test events. I think it's good that they seem to be looking out more to some of the European test events, like the one in Barcelona, and I think they've done some in the Netherlands, just to get it started, because it did seem for a while like we weren't going to be doing any test events for a lot longer. So it's good that they're starting to happen, but I'd be interested to see what happens with the next ones and how they amp it up, because that one's all outside and socially distanced, so it'd be interesting to see if if the distance gets less, or if there's mask less, and what are they testing to see how it goes.
Absolutely. You actually bring me to my next question, which I'll bring to you, Sadhbh, which is how exactly do we measure the success of these events? My understanding is that there was no antigen testing for that specific event. So then how should we be measuring the success of these events? Sadhbh, what do you think?
Yeah, that's my understanding of it as well. And I mean, it's kind of interesting. You know, I think it's fantastic, obviously, that we are at this place where there are test events happening. But, you know, Sinead brought it up before we came on air. Like, we already know that outdoor socially distanced things are okay because it's what we're doing in dining, and it's what we're doing, you know, in our kind of daily lives anyway. So what are we actually testing? You know, but I think we have to start somewhere. And, you know, I think, as Sinead said, like, progressing, I suppose for some people it will just be, I suppose, a reassurance, you know, that these things can happen. Probably for audiences as much as organisers, you know, because there is going to be a certain amount of caution among audiences. I mean, obviously you saw the people in those clips were so delighted to be at something, but there is going to be a certain amount of caution, I think, among audiences to return to gatherings of any sort. So I think even just having some examples that we can point to which are, you know, managed efficiently and safely, and that they're not resulting in any outbreaks or anyone getting sick, I think it'll be kind of reassuring for everyone, and hopefully we'll be able to progress us to a point where we can start trialing more indoor events as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly intrigued by what you're saying there, Sadhbh, the point you brought up about indoor events, because you're right, we know that outdoor events are safe, and there's a little bit of, well, if it's okay for people up to groups of 15, we heard earlier, if there's children to be indoors in a restaurant, shouldn't we be testing events indoors? And the other thing that I'd like to bring up, what if it all goes wrong? Who's to blame? And I don't think this is quite being discussed anywhere, that at these test events, if there's a sudden spike in numbers or an outbreak, who's to blame? Is it the public? Is it the safety officer? What do you think about that, Sinead? Where do we even start having that conversation? Should we?
I think the virus is to blame. It is a highly contagious virus, and there's only a certain amount. Like, the idea of a test event is it's a test. So you put in procedures and you think, okay, this we can do, this we can do, this we can do, and this is the aspect that we're testing. And sometimes tests, you know, sometimes they go good, sometimes they go bad. So it's not, as long as there's not, you know, a free for all where we just go, let's open all the doors and have a massive rave. I think it's something you have to think of it not so much as a failure as a learning experience. Okay, so that happened, then what do we do next? How do we adapt and change and learn from that so that the next thing we get a more positive thing, and then we can move forward from that.
Absolutely. And I think caution is definitely key here. And I think there is a risk that we lose the run of ourselves. I know for me, at some of the events I was at for the Carlow Arts Festival, I was just high on life and I was like, more. So I think we're going to have to work quite hard to kind of sit on ourselves a bit and proceed with caution all around. Thank you, Sinead and Sadhbh. Of course, you will be back with us later in the show for our final segment, The Big Debate. So please, everybody, stay tuned for that. And thank you so much, guys. If you haven't checked out our website recently, you're missing out. You can catch up on our blog posts, our latest articles, and TheatreMaker news at TheatreMaker.ie. While we transition to our next segment, the feature story, let's take a quick look at the programming happening this week in Ireland and abroad.
Monday, the Abbey's show One Good Turn will be performed live. One Good Turn will be running until Saturday 26th. Monday, the Abbey's show One Good Turn will be performed live. One Good Turn will be running until Saturday 26th. The in-person tickets are currently sold out, but you can watch the live stream Friday 26th and Saturday 27th at 7:30 p.m. One Good Turn will also be available on demand 27th of June until the 10th of July. Book your tickets on abbeytheatre.ie. Pan Pan's Mespel in the Dark begins streaming today online. Mespel in the Dark is being presented as 4 15-minute episodes over 4 nights, starting today and continuing until Saturday. Then on Sunday, episode 1 will be presented in 360, an immersive spherical video where a view in every direction is recorded simultaneously to fully submerge the viewer into the lives of the artists. Pan Pan also have their symposium hours tomorrow and the following 2 Thursdays. You'll hear from the current participants of Pan Pan's 8th International Mentorship Programme, Owen Carrick, Ben Kidd, Martha Knight, Vicky Langan and Rachel Nivranon. You'll also hear from the current mentor, Terry O'Connor, one of the collaborative artists that make up the world-renowned theatre and performance group Forced Entertainment. Register your interest on panpantheatre.com. Today and tomorrow, Cork Midsummer Festival, Project Arts Centre and the Javad Ali Poor Company present Rich Kids, a history of shopping malls in Tehran. This online version of Rich Kids is presented on YouTube and also simultaneously on Instagram. You can follow the show by watching on your main screen. Extra interactivity is facilitated by having Instagram on your smartphone, where you can view a pictorial feed and sections on Instagram Live. However, if you are reluctant to download or use Instagram, you will not be lost and can still follow the performance. Project Arts Centre's Luminous Void is coming to an end next week. Luminous Void, 20 Years of Experimental Film Society, is an overview of the 20-year history of Experimental Film Society. The exhibition's performances and visual art concludes on the 25th of June, while their guest curator programme ends Saturday. Tickets and information for both of these available on projectartscentre.ie. Bewley's Cafe Theatre has been presenting a series of outdoor performances for small audiences in historic Dublin locations. Next Please is the second instalment in the series and open today. It will be running until the 26th of June. Tickets are available on Eventbrite and more information is available on bewleyscafetheatre.com. The Clonmel Junction Arts Festival 2021 is set to return the first week of July. The new pop-up festival is aimed to last for about a week at the Junction Dome, County Tipperary. In a programme featuring theatre, music, visual arts, literature and art trails, the festival explores the identity of Clonmel with a variety of events both in town and online. Providing a platform for artists, musicians and writers living and working in Clonmel, the festival hopes to inspire, delight and surprise audiences this summer from the 3rd until the 11th of July. Bookings are now open. Visit the website below for more information. To celebrate Bloomsday, Bethencourt Productions presents Woman in Bed, a literary cabaret. A Bloomsday special literary cabaret inspired by Molly Bloom. Tickets for this special cabaret show can be booked through Eventbrite.
For this evening's feature story, I am very excited to talk all about Lasta. Presented as part of Brightening Air Cushcame Cuillig, Lasta is nationwide 10-day season of arts experiences for children and young people and promises to be a fresh, fun, diverse, accessible and exciting festival of events. They will deliver for the first time a national arts programme curated entirely by young people. I am thrilled now to be joined by theatre maker Julia Appleby, who is a curator for Lasta with the Pavilion in Dunleary and is going to tell us all about it. Welcome to the show, studio. Absolute pleasure to have you with us. How's it going?
Good, delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. Now, before we get going, I have to say this because I know there are a lot of people out there who will know what I'm talking about and understand. We have something in common. Which is, we were both production officers with ISDA, the Irish Student Drama Association.
It's so mad, I couldn't believe when you told me. So we did that this year, which was so exciting to be a part of. Obviously, a lot of contingency plans with it this year, but it was all online. But yeah, it's so mad. You obviously had a very different experience to me with it.
Yes, and definitely a tiny gap of years between your experience
Not at
and
all.
my experience. Only a decade, but I can't imagine what this year must have been like. Just wow, having to move everything online, and such a huge part of it is obviously, meeting people from other universities and colleges and stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely very different and quite sad in that way, not being able to kind of meet everyone, but there was some good parts to it. It kind of meant you got to see all the shows, which is sometimes not the case at ISDA, and there might be a show that wins everything and you're like, why did they win?
Absolutely, every year there's always that one show that wins everything that nobody got to see because it was sold out.
Exactly. So that's the beauty with the live. You can go and see it. So that was a really great aspect of it.
Yeah.
And another good part of it was we got to do loads of online events and panels and stuff like that. So there was kind of a way to get involved, even if you weren't there, which you might not quite get because obviously ISDA is in a different college each year and you have classes to attend. So things like that were great to kind of experience, but hopefully ISDA will be in person next year.
Yeah, I mean, one of the few silver linings. There are some silver linings that came out of this pandemic, and certainly the fact that you were able to go to all of the shows is one of those. So we'll take that.
Absolutely.
So moving on to what we're actually here to talk about, which is LASTA. Can you tell us how you came to be one of the young curators for LASTA?
Yeah, so the applications came out. I actually saw the Town Hall Theatre one first, and then I realised this is happening across the country. And my local theatre pavilion were also looking for young curators, so I just saw it and I applied. I was so excited by it. And yeah, we had an interview process, which was kind of difficult. You had to wasn't too hard, but you had to basically come up with 5 events, who's your target audience, what's your marketing for that target audience, and then that was the interview process. And I think within a day they announced who it was, and you literally get started like the following day. So it was kind of go from the start.
Just throwing you in the deep end. There you go, sink or swim.
Yeah, I think to be honest, we're all craving it.
Like, to do something is so exciting, and to be curating something like so cool.
Yeah, amazing. So let's get into the nitty gritty now a little bit. What wonderful events have you been working on for LASTA?
Yeah, so I am curating with 2 other people in the pavilion. So my main focus was theatre. So I programmed a lot of that. So we had a good few kids events for children. We had an audio broadcast by the Everyman Cork and Graffiti. We had a dance theatre piece by Little Lion Theatre Company. Then we also programmed Seawall with Andrew Scott, which was amazing. That was last weekend. And then we also have a few more shows that you can still catch. So we had a daily short series, which we would have free short films available each day. And I managed to get a little theatre one in there. So we actually are presenting tomorrow. Very exciting. I'm really happy with this one. It's the company Clean Break, which are based in the UK. They are 2 women prisoners who set up the company in 1979. They wanted to bring the stories of women in prison to a wider audience, and they have remained true to this ever since. So they create incredible work that's just so important, I think, to be seen. So we are presenting a short film, which was a play, adapted into a short film called Sweatbox on tomorrow. Then we also have our kind of big one, which I'm very excited by, is Adam, which was made by the National Theatre of Scotland and Hopscotch Films, adapted from a play into a film commissioned by BBC. So really exciting. It's the true story of Adam Kashmiri, who was born in Egypt, and he's a trans man, and the story basically tells how he cannot gain asylum in Glasgow until he transitions, but he cannot transition until he is granted asylum. So he's caught in a catch-22, and it shows him grappling with this situation, with the ghosts of his present and his past, and it's an incredibly moving, important piece. And if you have €10 to buy the ticket, it's on Friday night at 7:30, and you've 24 hours to see it, and it's an hour long and incredible piece. So yeah, there are a few of the things I got into the festival.
Wow. An incredible load of works there.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I believe we have a small clip to show everybody. Let's have a look.
LASTA offers an uplifting,
exciting, dynamic,
lively,
interactive
approach to art festivals,
curated by young people,
for young people.
LASTA is about opportunity,
creative exploration,
inclusion,
creativity.
An online multidisciplinary arts festival
running from the 11th until the 20th of June.
Be inspired.
A chance to experience something new.
LASTA's just some good crack.
It certainly sounds like good crack. I have to give him that. What a great trailer. I think that'll give everybody a good sense of the scope and variety of the young voices that are curating this incredible festival, which sort of brings me to my next question. Can you tell us about this, the collaborative aspect of this, because you are one of 3 curators. at the Pavilion, and the other two come from slightly different disciplines. Can you talk about your work with those two other curators and how that process has been?
Yeah, it's been brilliant working with them. So I've worked with HK and Helen, and they both come, as you said, from very different disciplines. So HK has a real grounding in film and music, and Helen would also be interested in theatre, but also has a huge knowledge of literature and the literature scene. So, I mean, it was clear why the three of us were chosen, and it was great in that way. I mean, I've been introduced to so many people and artists because of them, which is so exciting. But I mean, we had meetings like at least once, twice, maybe even 3 times a week over Zoom, of course. And we really like lent on each other. We collaborated, we bounced ideas off each other. There were times in the process where like we weren't getting replies from people, and like we supported each other, we cried. So it was really nice in that way to kind of have the three of us doing it together and supporting each other in that way. And then in a grander sense of the nationwide festival, there was 21 of us doing it. So there's a lot of collaboration with each venue. So you'll see like a lot of the venues have teamed up with things, have teamed up with different events. That's been like so cool. And the way it was done was that we had meetings. So we had like group meetings at the start and in the middle, and in the middle we would present our events if we wanted to share them. So like the next day there was like emailing like, backstage, I want to share with you, and Glor, can we get on this? And so that was really cool, and meeting all these really cool people, and everyone is so interested in something different. Like even the three of us at the Pavilion like had such different interests, and like there's a range of arts events in the one festival, which I think happens when you have 21 young voices who have something to say.
Absolutely, of course, because there are 21 curators. This is happening across 8 venues across, like it's a truly nationwide festival, and of course so much of it is online. You can access it from anywhere in the country or even the world. Why do you think it's so important that events and festivals like LASTA are held that give space to younger makers and creators like yourself?
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I think the one thing that has become so apparent to me over the however long it's been happening now, and it just each week became more stronger for me, is being able to have that conversation and collaboration with older established makers and who are making the decisions, and opening that conversation up with the young emerging artists, I think is vital for the Irish theatre industry and in our survival of that. We have something to say, and we want to see certain kinds of works and certain artists, and opening that up and having the opportunity to work with the Pavilion staff has been just incredible to have our voices heard. So that's just been like one of the main reasons why I think like it's so important to have a festival like this, and to have 21 diverse voices coming up. And I would hope that that continues and that conversation continues, and I really do believe that the people in each of these venues, the organisers, will continue that conversation. It won't just end with LASTA. There'll still be programming for young people, and I think as well, like I'd hope that other theatres and arts organisations like go have a look at our programmes, go and see what we've programmed, and start like thinking that way, and look at your under 30 audience and say, do we need to think of them more? Do we need to have them as our target audience? How can we get them in? And that's like so important. One of the things that they did, which was great, the Backstage Longford actually did this pilot program last year. So they had experienced this, and they kind of taught us at the start like things that worked for them and didn't. And one of the things they said to us was they went into schools and surveyed what they wanted to see, and teenagers wanted to see work that wasn't made for them, that was about serious subject matter. And like, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it was also quite surprising for me, and something that we kept coming back to. Like, they want to see important work, and I think when you actually look at today's young people, we're so politically engaged, and we can access anything we want with the click of the button. We can learn about anything, we can experience anything we want on the internet, and I think we need the arts to reflect that and to like incorporate our voices into it. So I think, yeah, an arts festival made by young people, I think it's great, and I think it's great if we listen to that and keep acting, you know, with that, and keep moving forward with our voices being heard. Also, if you look across all the venues, it's very affordable, which is so important for young people. We're on a major budget. Like in the Pavilion, nothing is more than €15. Mostly it's €5-10, or a lot of it's free. And if our arts isn't a priority for you as a young person, you're probably not going to spend a lot of money. I mean, €25 for a show, that is our leap card for the week. So like it can be really tough to make those choices. So making it affordable for young people and having that conversation as well has been really great with the venues, and seeing it across the 8 venues that it is an affordable festival is really exciting. So yeah, more young people festivals curated by young people would be great.
Absolutely. You bring up a few points, and it's kind of obvious, as you said, it's an obvious thing, but it's not an obvious thing. Asking young people what they want to see, how is that such a revolutionary idea? And yet it is. And certainly, you know, if we get the audiences in when they're young, they'll stay, and thus there is a path to growing our theatre audience for the future. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio this evening, Julia. It's been such a treat. Loster runs nationwide until the 20th of June as part of Brightening Air Cush Came Quillig. You can find all the information you need at brighteningair.com, and you can check out paviliontheatre.ie for the events Julia has been talking about.
If you find value in Stage Door Live, please help us grow by letting your friends and followers know. If you're watching on Facebook, hit that follow button and give us a like. Take a moment to share this live feed with your friends and followers right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click that bell to keep updated on our new and exclusive YouTube content. Creating live content is a costly endeavour. If you'd like to help us keep the conversations going, please hop on over to our Patreon page, where you could become a patron and gain access to exclusive patron-only content. patreon.com/TheatreMaker.ie. You can find us on most social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TheatreMaker.ie. Catch additional news, blogs and sector coverage on our website, TheatreMaker.ie. Watch this space, there's more exciting content on the way from TheatreMaker.ie.
For our final segment of the evening, we would like to welcome you to The Big Debate. In this segment, we will be inviting our guests to discuss, deliberate and debate on the bigger issues, questions and possibly even a few controversies that are currently on the teacups. It's been a long day, everybody. I am so sorry. I would like to welcome to the panel actor Angus Ogue McAnally. Thank you so much for joining us today, Angus. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
Thank you so much. Joining Angus, we are delighted to welcome back Sinéad and Sadhbh, and of course here in studio, Julia. We've 2 motions to debate for your viewing pleasure this evening, and please do remember to add your 2 cents in the comments below. We want to hear your views and opinions too. A word of warning to all, as this show is made by theatre makers for theatre makers, we've a habit of simply agreeing with each other. Therefore, I will be playing devil's advocate and taking a contrary point of view on occasion just to keep things interesting. Sure, after all, we do love a bit of drama. So, first up, reassessing pace. Last week, something of a Twitter storm stirred when Leon Bell tweeted the following. Hey, arts workers, could we all make a pact to slow down our pace of work a bit? That frenzy we were in before wasn't great, and I'm getting a bit of a bang of it again. Resist. Thanks. Does she have a point? Angus, I'm going to come to you first. How is the pace of work for you at the moment? Are you feeling the pressure of the industry roaring back to life?
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, we are experiencing that as it kicks back in again. The idea that we have to hit the ground running and make up for lost time is there. And also, I mean, I think many of us are guilty in a freelance context of kind of championing that grinding work ethic. I know certainly for me, back in the early days of Rise Productions, and that I almost kind of fetishized that crazy work ethic. And, you know, the idea that for me, with a small startup company like Rise, The idea that 7-day weeks and 22-hour days weren't a rare occurrence. The idea of, like, think about that initial training stuff for Fight Night, like doing this intense physical training at 1 and 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, or producing a podcast at 5 o'clock in the morning from a hotel before you go on set to shoot a TV thing, before you drive to the far side of the country to go on stage in the Abbey. Like, that was a mad way to be doing it. And I don't know that it's conducive to making the best kind of work. Maybe you can get away with it in your 20s or your early 30s or whatever, but as you start getting on in years, I don't know how sustainable it is, and I don't know how conducive it is to creating good and engaging art. And I think the idea that maybe there's a bit of a reset coming from the back of this crisis and this shutdown, that I think the key word coming out of it is going to be sustainability, because I think it's no longer enough to look at a situation where the funding landscape in Irish theatre is such that essentially if you just slog it out for the first 25 or 30 years of your career, that maybe you'll get some kind of a cushy number in the final 10 before we retire off to an old folks home where you can barely walk because you've worked so hard for that first 2 decades. I don't know how useful that is to us as an industry. So fingers crossed it's going to be getting better.
Certainly. And do you think there's an element, I know I'm certainly feeling this a little bit in my own work, that we're just so happy to be back making things that there's an element to that we're like, oh yes, we get to go, so let's go really hard and do it. Do you think, Angus, there's a little bit of that going on?
Yeah, of course there is. And also there's that freelancer's curse of, you never know where the next gig is coming from. But the day, my granddad's anniversary was yesterday. He was a 3-time BAFTA winning actor. And on the day he died, he said to my dad, I've already turned down 20 films so far this year. I wonder how long I can keep saying no before they stop asking. Now, if you're at the level of having 3 BAFTAs in your arse pocket and you're still worried about the freelance ethic, that'll tell you about how deeply ingrained that is. We're terrified of saying no because the bank manager's going to want the money at the end of the month, or the landlord's going to want the money at the end of the month every month. So it's difficult, but I do think there is something about trying to regain a bit of control and a bit of agency if at all possible. Now, I'm aware that that's kind of a privileged position to be in, because for many of us, we really do have to scrabble and fight for each of those pennies or each of those fivers to get ourselves, to keep the roof over our head and to feed the family and whatever else. So trying to strike that balance is a tricky thing to do, but I do think that if we can find it, then the work will be the better for it, the careers will be better for it, because the burnout thing is real, and it is having a real cost in chasing people out of the business. Not even just we lose them for 6 months while they're just not at their best. They're going to other fields because it just makes more sense financially, and that's the real issue. I think that's something we need to be very careful of.
Certainly, I think this was an issue pre-pandemic, and if anything, like everything else, like a lot of things, the pandemic is only showing, highlighting these things even further. Sadhbh, I'm going to come to you next. You often work across multiple projects in multiple roles, like a lot of us. Do you find yourself wishing now that everything had slowed down just a little bit? Or are you happy to be heading back towards something akin to normal?
I suppose it's a bit of a kind of a seesaw between both of those positions, not to be overly diplomatic about it, but of course there's such an excitement about getting back to work again, and there is a little bit of that feeling of pressure of the backlog of shows that should have been are now happening again, but still we're pushing forward with new projects and things like that as well. But yeah, I just think it's going to be really interesting to see. I think Liam made a really good point in that tweet is, but as Angus said, resisting that kind of, being in a position where you can say no to things, is a privileged position often to be in. So, I'm really excited to be back working, but I don't want to be in a position, where I'm feeling overstretched, and the work really does suffer, because of that. So I think it's going to be really difficult, and there needs to be a kind of a larger infrastructural, it's not just up to the individuals. There has to be really a kind of evaluation of the whole sector to see how can we make it more sustainable for everybody. But it is true that often it is freelancers who really hit that burnout position because the fear, as Angus pointed to, of saying no, and that one day people will stop asking. That's a really real fear. So I think we have had time to kind of reflect a little bit and contemplate. So it'll just be about trying to keep that awareness going forward, and and supporting each other to try and keep it sustainable.
Absolutely. You touched on something there, Sadhbh, that I'm going to come to now, is that there seems to be this combination going on right now where there is a pressure to honour and complete projects which had to be put on hold from last year, and then commitments to new projects that have evolved in light of the last year, particularly in relation to drawing down funding. You know, there are deadlines that people have. So how do we as an industry navigate this with care and avoid strangling each other in the process? Angus, what do you think? I'm going to come back to you on that one.
I think we have a unique once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here. I mean, if you think the kind of funding to the Arts Council this year was at about 120 million, now much of that was soaked up in kind of just filling the black hole that was caused from the entire shutdown. But for a long time, the promised land, the nirvana for us, was the idea of 100 million for the Arts Council. And so even if government managed to go, okay, that was a once-off, that was to get us through the pandemic, we have to give you swinging cuts in the range of 20%, and we end up back at 100 million, well, that's the promised land that we always talked about. So there is a real chance that coming out of this, we finally get to that thing of, doubling arts funding in 7 years, and the meaningless promise that was. But it means we might actually get to a point where we have the kind of funding that the skill set and the talent across Irish theatre can leverage it up properly, actually for this to be a golden age. The tricky thing is that the cuts of the last 10 years have kind of turned off the pipeline 10 years ago. And so all the traffic that should have come through that, and the career development and career ladder and progression and experience, that didn't happen. So the trick is that we need to have the right people to plug in to utilize that funding when it comes on stream. But I do think, actually, maybe I'm just a hopeless romantic or just overly optimistic, but I do think there's a real opportunity to make this be the right thing.
Oh, Angus, I really want to believe you. I do. I'm like hopelessly optimistic. Sinead, I want to come to you now. Who do you think is responsible for setting this pace? I mean, Angus kind of mentioned it earlier, and Sadhbh, you kind of pointed to it as well. Is it a collective decision as an industry? Is that even possible when you're staring down the barrel of deadlines set by an organisation or a building? And particularly as freelancers, how do we do that?
I think it's on everyone. I think it's unfair of venues to expect you to go in and put up a full show in 12 hours when really it should take 24. I think that they have to realise it, and maybe COVID restrictions will benefit that in a weird way, because there's going to be departmental bubbles. So I can't be marking a stage in the dark as a stage manager while there's a light and focus happening above my head. Hopefully that stuff will stop happening or be less of an issue than what it was, because there's always that fight to get everything in the least amount of time. And I think we need to acknowledge and say out loud, actually, we need more time. There's, maybe you're working on a project and they're saying, here's your 3 weeks rehearsal, and you say, actually, I need 6, or this is not going to be good enough. And it's really hard to do, and it's probably not always going to be successful. You might not get the money, you might not get the time, but I think we need to start saying it and saying it out loud so that people will eventually hear it. And if everybody, if you're honest, if you have a full script and you have 3 weeks, we all would like more. So why don't we ask for more? And if we all keep asking, maybe they'll start to realize, and then but it is tricky because, as I think it was Emma O'Grady said, this industry can't afford itself. So there's that tricky balance. But the other thing I'm hoping that will help is if the universal basic income comes in, it might give us a bit of breathing space, that we're not falling into, as Angus said, the freelance curse of, I have to take this gig because I don't know when the next one's coming. You might be able to have a rest in between, or not quadruple job, or more than that job. So yeah. I think it's on us. I think it's on the venues to understand that what they're expecting is unsustainable. It's on us to realise that burnout is real, and you don't want to do those 25 years in the industry and burn yourself out and then be gone and have to start from scratch in a new industry. I think it's on companies to respect their staff and to make sure that their staff are looked after and, have the basic things like enough time to sleep. And I think, which you'd be surprised is not that common. I think it's on all of us, and I think we all need to. The beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people said the industry wasn't working before, and I think Lee and Bell said we have to resist going back to that. So I don't know.
A collective.
I haven't got a solution.
Well, I mean, none of us have a solution really, but I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, that it does need to be the collective voice. And, if enough people are laying down these ground rules and boundaries, then maybe the people in those positions, we all know who we're talking about, will start to listen and respect that, and things will start to change. Julia, I'd like to come to you now, because as somebody who has literally just entered the industry and you've come straight into this mad world of the pandemic, I'd like to know, what is your perspective on this?
Yeah.
Are we terrifying you? Are we scaring you away from the industry?
Not yet. I finished my degree last May, which is a really interesting time to finish college and go into a theatre career. But I would agree with what everyone's saying. I mean, I think as a young person as well, you have a tendency to say yes to absolutely every single opportunity. And sometimes you are just have said yes to too much stuff and you can't sustain that. Also, you're looking at so many different applications that might work for you, and you're trying to say yes to all of them and do all of them. And then you're also trying to balance it with your part-time job, which can be difficult, and you can be lucky if that is flexible, but for a lot of us it isn't. It's rostered, and I'm very lucky I still live at home, but if you're paying rent, how is that sustainable? Literally, how is it if you want to work in the arts and you have to pay rent? It is quite difficult. But that all being said, I do have a bit of hope. I feel like there's a lot happening. There's a lot. People are standing up, we're speaking, we're making change, it feels like, and I really believe that things are going to start changing for the better, and we're going to have a more sustainable theatre industry in Ireland. And I think that we have to keep fighting for it, and I think it's incredible to hear that UBI is in the talks. That's so exciting. It's so exciting as a young maker to hear that. So yeah, I suppose just my fingers are crossed, but also just trying to balance it and continue saying yes and continue doing as much as I can, but trying to also not burn myself out. Though I'm very young, I can still have energy to do stuff, but it is something. It's so important to have that work-life balance as well, and mental health and everything. So yeah,
absolutely learn from those who've gone before. Certainly. Oh, God be with the optimism of it all. Hoorah, let's hope for the future. Absolutely. What an excellent and thought-provoking discussion. I think we'd all agree that we could talk about that for hours. However, I must call a halt as we need to move on to our second and final debate of the evening. Restructuring and or reframing. There's been so much talk in the last year about lessons that we have learned in the off time this year, including how we might make the industry better for all, how important the arts have been to everyone, how much value art workers hold. However, so much of that talk has been amongst ourselves in the particular arts echo chamber we occupy. So how do we take that message to the masses? Should we be restructuring and reframing the way that we work and talk about what we do in this industry? Angus, I'm going to come to you first. Do you think we have, as an industry, have difficulty describing what we do as a business?
Well, I think sometimes we struggle to make the business argument, but I also would question how often we need to make the business argument. I think there was a long time, kind of the last decade, under a Fine Gael regime that would very much prize, bed nights and dollars over the artistic output. It was very difficult, and I think that we kind of missed a trick in choosing not to speak their language. There was a very definite decision made from lobby groups that we're going to try and sell this artistic message, and I think that, we need to know our audience. We need to go and make that thing land. I think now with the current change of the current minister, who I have to say I've had an awful lot of time for in terms of the progressive initiatives and just the hard fought campaigns she's been waging to look out for us. I think there is a new scope there, and so I think the messaging, there's an opportunity for the messaging to be more truthful than it ever has been before, more real and authentic, is what I mean by that, in that we now have this opportunity to say, how did you survive the lockdown? because you didn't do it without Netflix, you didn't do it without a book, you didn't do it without your iPod listening to music, okay? So now you start to value the arts, you start to value what it is that we are contributing. And, you know, it's only about, it's not looking, the narrative is always, oh, lay about artists looking for handouts. We're looking for significantly less than the IDA is investing into SMEs. You know, we're looking for significantly less than some of the tax breaks that you're giving to horse racing industries or tech giants coming in. So let's be realistic about what it is we're doing. And I think there is scope to frame the message correctly now, because the audience is more ready to hear it in a positive light than they ever have been before.
Fantastic. So do you think then, rather than us trying to like big up what we're doing and speak in those business terms, it's more about us saying, actually, hang on, all of this money that you're giving, as you said, through like the local enterprise offices and all of those things to SMEs, you're giving way more money to that than what you're giving to us, but actually we are equally as valuable. Is that where we need to be bringing the fight, Angus?
It's a two-pronged attack, you know, and the logic of it is that, in fact, we're much more efficient than many of the other bigger organizations. The leveraging effect of investment in arts has a significantly higher return to the exchequer. And that's before you factor in just the improvement in quality of life and social cohesion and mental health improvement for the nation. So like, there's a really solid argument to be made there. And I think I have to give full credit to the National Campaign for the Arts, because they are now, in my opinion, pitching the argument perfectly, where it is a balance between, let's be politically astute about what we're doing here. Let's not go on Twitter every week and go, oh, these politicians, they're ruining everything for everybody. Let's play a political game. Let's be a little bit smart. You know, we need to be making, politics is the art of what's possible. So let's make sure that we are achieving what is possible, but also telling the truth about what it is we do and what it is we can contribute. Because the facts, the numbers of it stack up. So we don't just have to win them over with the incredible artistic merits of Riverdance goes here and Bono goes there and Marina Carr does this. I mean, those arguments stack up. But the fact that we can marry them in tandem with a really, really concise and strong and striking business argument, that's when you start to win people over. Like, making me feel good about the art is fine, but telling me you're making me feel good about the art whilst also funding a new cancer ward for a local hospital, now you've got me in.
Yeah, I suppose it's about tackling that image of artists, of that, like that airy fairy artist who's away with the fairies and whatever else. Absolutely. And so anyone in this industry who works in the industry knows what it takes to put on a show, right? We know how many people are involved, a variety of roles. Yet for the most of the general public, beyond actor, director, writer, they haven't a notion of what goes into it. And this year we all experienced some of the ramifications of that. You know, the fact of some of those like grants that came out for certain things. So I'm just wondering, how do we change that? Sadhbh, I'd like to come to you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I would possibly even argue that some people in the industry still don't know what it takes to make a show. You know, we're only recently seeing things like the term arts worker being included in things like bursary opportunities. You know, I think even the sector itself was very artist focused, and the kind of remit of the artist was quite narrow for quite a while. So I think that's something that we need to look at internally. And I think a lot of progress has been made there in even just the last few years in terms of acknowledging all of the people involved in all areas of the industry and equally valuing the skills and expertise of all of them. But I think in terms of kind of the general narrative, outside of the industry, like, it's really, really hard to know from the inside. I wish I could sort of teleport myself out of my little echo chamber of all of my arts friends, and get a proper, you know, gauge the temperature in the general public, because it does feel like there's been quite a shift. And as Angus said, like, in a way, the pandemic kind of gave us this perfect you know, sort of social experiment where it was really easy to put the finger on how important the arts are in the life of the general public, because, you know, people were their lives were so changed, so many things were taken away, and the things that got them through obviously was music and literature and film and everything. So it does feel like, and all the work that the National Campaign for the Arts have done has been amazing in kind of branding that argument. for, to argue for the importance of it in kind of in the minds of the general public. But yeah, it is quite, I find it really hard to properly gauge it because I'm just immersed in it all the time. And, social media is designed to be a complete echo chamber. So I have to, I don't know, ask all my brother's GA friends or something.
Certainly, yeah. Leading on from that, Sinead, I'm going to come to you for this one. So many people do not view the arts as a viable career or a real job. We've all had those conversations. So, Sinead, how do you think we change that perception? Can we change that perception?
I think there'll possibly always be a little bit of, sure, it's not a real job, you're having too much fun. But, that's fine. They're just jealous. I think there's a certain amount of, I think what Angus said was, I totally agree with the two-prong approach, but I think we could add to that is not just celebrating the big wins like the Bonos and the Marina Cars, but celebrating the little wins, the companies that you don't know about that are touring the world, the companies that, for the general public, if there was a way for us to express that more is happening than people are aware of, and there's quite a lot more. There's dance companies from Ireland who are touring, there's theatre companies that are doing tours of Asia and America and all around Europe that the general public has no idea about. I think, if we could have the sports at the end of the news thing where we could talk about, these people are going here and this art is happening here and, our musicians are doing this and our authors are doing this, and not just when they win the Booker Prize, but before they win the Booker Prize and all the way through. I think that would potentially show people that we do exist before you become Bono. Bono didn't just fall out of, being in the biggest band in the world. Like, they worked before then, and we all work before you hit the big time and you get your Oscars, some for longer than others. But that it is a process, and it's you build a career, and then people would see that it's actually, this is how it works. It's not, there's very few people who are being plucked out of a mall and, turning into Julia Roberts. It's a fantasy. It doesn't happen. That's the only way I can think of that might be helpful, but I'm sure that there's many other ways I haven't.
I mean, certainly we're all aware of that, arts for tourism thing where they point and say, look at what we do in Ireland. Angus, I'd like to follow up with you on this one. Do you have any thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I do think this is the opportunity. And in terms of the balance, I think, celebrating our smaller successes is really important. I think, if you look at how thriving the amateur dramatic scene is in a country like Ireland, and just kind of how deeply integrated into communities it is, that there, that's there to leverage as well in terms of the experience of that. I think that's useful. But I do think we have been gifted an opportunity now where possibly this is where we will get unprecedented levels of funding going into the future. We have a whole new generation coming through. I've seen from people like the Lasta gang coming through. There is an appetite, a hunger, an energy, and an enthusiasm. And I think we can basically just light the fuse on this and see what happens. If finally, for the first time ever, we have adequate levels of funding, and marry that then in with the basic income as well, which I think is going to be really significant, because when you look back at that period in the mid 1990s where that generation of the Jimmy Fays and the Marco Rose and the Carl Shields came through, there was kind of an ethic or an ethos there where you could fund stuff off your dole and still be able to pay the rent and still be able to feed it, just go and make shows out of it. And it feels like maybe there's a time, if the UBI element comes in for the arts, that maybe there's the opportunity to do that again, to remove that stress. So much of our creative energy is burnt up on going, how do I cover the rent this week? How do I get off that shift in the bar to make it to that audition? How do I take the time away from the office job to actually sit down and finish writing this piece? If those stresses and impediments are gone, all of the creative energy gets fueled into the work. And that's like, a steroid shot into it. And that I find very exciting.
Oh my God, what an amazing segue to my next question, which I'm going to fly straight to you, Julia. I want to leave you the last word on this. I'm feeling so full of optimism after talking to everyone. What would you like to see as one of those young people coming through? What would you like to see for the future?
A thriving theatre scene, definitely. But Yeah, I think I would love to see UBI come in. I think it would lead to so much for the theatre industry and the arts industry. I think it would open so many doors for so many people. But on from that, I would love to see more opportunity for development and for learning, and for in the kind of big theatres to like have positions of assistant directors, assistant designers, for us to learn, to get that professional experience. I do think that is something we are missing. And it particularly as well, like if you haven't gone to college, it can be really scary entering the theatre industry. And, you know, if you get into Fringe, it's like you can't fail at that. That's, you know, your go. Like you have to produce something great. And in college, you can fail and experiment and do whatever you want. So I'd love to see more of that, more development, more assistant jobs, more space to grow, because it can be quite daunting entering the theatre industry in Ireland, and it is small and everyone kind of knows everyone and you feel like you have to prove yourself, and I think more space for that would be really great to see.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, Julia. Thank you so much. There is no doubt in my mind that this is a debate that is far from over, but I'm afraid that is all we have time for. But before we go, really quickly, we only have about 2 minutes. I'm going to go in backwards order. Angus, is there anything in particular you'd like to plug that's coming up?
There's a tour later this year that I'm not allowed to talk about, but stay tuned to riseproductions.ie and you might see details about that soon.
We will stay tuned. Julia, is there anything you'd like to plug? Lasta. Absolutely. What about you, Sadhbh?
Well, I have to say what I'm right in the middle of, which is the amazing Cork Midsummer Festival. There's loads online if you can't make it to the real capital, but if you can, there's some really great outdoor stuff as well.
Amazing. And Sinead?
Again, I'm like Angus, things coming up that I can't talk about about 2022.
Oh, the suspense though. The suspense is exciting. We'll go with that. Stay tuned. Thank you so much to all our guests for joining us this evening. Sadhbh, Sinead, Julia, and of course Angus. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you all. I wish I had a magic wand to make all of these come true, but I have to say you've all left me feeling very optimistic and hopeful, which is really nice. I hope our audience feels the same at home, and please, all of you, I do hope you come back on the show in the future. Thank you so much. This week I was drawn to Liam's Bell tweet and the discussion around it. Over the last year, we've talked so much about how we can improve our sector, from diversity inclusion to well-being and our overall tempo. How much we claimed to learn in that time. As the sector begins to reopen, however, never mind business as usual, it feels like we're working harder and faster than ever as we try to honour the work that had been on hold and keep to the commitments to new work that was discovered, invented and created in the pause. Everyone's pressed go at the same time and without a thought. The technical difficulties that caused the show to go on hold have been fixed and the show was started again. We're stuck in a bottleneck. And like any bottleneck, the pressure is immense. Tensions are high and we're all still processing and dealing with the trauma that's been wrought in the last year. There's no question at all that we're so happy to walk into the dressing rooms and onto the stages that we love so much. We are making work again. I hate to be a buzzkill, but I can't help but feel we need a minute. We need to understand everything that the last 16 months has taught us. Deadlines are deadlines, and work is work, and it will be made, and that is brilliant. But while we all try to navigate this crazy moment in time, we must remember that we are all feeling the same pressures and tensions. We should, where we can, be kind to each other and ourselves. We must put all that we've learned into practice. Take a moment and breathe, which is exactly what we're going to do now. With the help of Access Breathe and Chandrika Narayan Mohan's Engine of Love.
Hello everyone, my name is Chandrika Narayan Mohan and I am very excited to be part of the Access Breathe series and particularly proud to be part of the Pride version of the Breathe series. So I'm going to share a short poem with you today, and I hope it makes your day a little sparkier. So this is called Engine of Love. I am an engine of love. I am steeped in fumes from the spluttering, the muttering, and all the false starts. I have fed myself a fuel of regrets and insecurities that bite and rust, that stiffen, but now I must somehow ignite myself into existence. I have wires and veins, and they're clogged with sadness and an inward crumbling, stumbling over a mess of detritus shattered from a stronger beta version of myself. I spent a long time with wires crossed and screws loose, a heart coated in the dust of neglect and disuse, and every extended length of copper was left disconnected, nothing conductive to curl onto, nothing electric to flow through. But I have visions of pistons, black, slick, and oil thick, a locomotion of emotion raring to go, because I stopped up every exhaust I could have used to dispel this toxic ooze in my throat, shuddering into palpitations of what a sensation it would be to feel an ease of connection. So here, take this key. Oil up this Tin Man and start me up, because baby, I need lubrication, because the imagined sensation of white hot action is too much for these old metal plates that have contracted and shrunk from the cold. I want love to shimmer in the air around me. This smile is going to be a sunshine machine. You've never seen anything like this. I shall churn out magic with my fingertips, touch and glow. It's going to be hot, and I want everyone to be caught up in this spin, because in the state I'm in, my core will be rotating faster than the speed of light, and any moment now I just might burst into life. Thank you, and happy Pride, beautiful people.
There's a moment of silence just before the curtain opens and the lights come up on the stage once again. Forget the rustle of the person at the end of the aisle opening their last word as original. Please do take a moment to breathe. And as Tom Creed coined the term on a previous episode of Stage Door Live, let's look for a better normal. Please do make sure and check out the rest of the Breathe programme on Access's website and YouTube channel. That's it from us at TheatreMaker at the Access Media Hub in Ballymun. Thanks to Access and Dublin City Council for making our programming possible. Due to scheduling conflicts, we won't be broadcasting next week, but we'll see you on Monday, the 28th of June for Irish Theatre This Week, and 2 weeks from today for Stage Door Live. Thank you and good night. Fán slán agus ihuwa.